4.3 acres of farmland disappear every minute in the U.S. And with them, the horse barns that once gave ordinary people access. Here's why we're crowdsourcing a permanent home. It's been 3 short weeks since we learned that it was time to move from the horse farm we had leased for 20 years and find a new permanent home within the upstate of South Carolina where our clients and staff could reach by a reasonable commute. So much has happened since. In those first hours, I felt like the ground had dropped out from under me. 20 years of work and memory, Max carrying children in circles, the sound of laughter spilling over the arena fence, the rhythms of feeding and turnout stitched into every day, suddenly came up against the hard truth that leased land is never truly secure. Since then, we've walked through grief and disbelief into something else, determination. We put an offer on a farm, we launched a campaign, we started to imagine what it would mean not just to move again, but to root down for good. Alongside the fear, there has been extraordinary kindness. Our community has shown up with meals. Friends have stood beside me as I hooked up the horse trailer. People I've never met have shared our story in places I could not have reached alone. 3 weeks ago, I thought we were losing everything. Now I see that we are building towards something far larger than ourselves. Crowdsourcing a barn, why we're asking and why it matters. When I first began speaking publicly about Bramblewood's move, a question surfaced from people both inside and outside the horse world. Why should anyone donate for you to buy a farm? It's a fair question. To some, it looks like asking for a handout. After all, barns get sold every day, trainers move on, businesses pack up and replant somewhere new. That's the way the industry has always gone. Lease until you can't, move until you rest for a moment, and then repeat until you burn out. And yet, if that's the only model left, what happens when there are no more places left to lease? Public stables aren't just about riding. Public stables aren't just places where people come to learn how to ride. They're places where people learn how to live. Horses draw us into presence. Their very size and sensitivity invites us to regulate our breath, soften our shoulders, and meet them with calm. For someone living with anxiety or grief, this can be the first glimpse of what steady ground feels like. Horses ask us to try again when we falter. Every person who has sat on a horse has felt fear, and every person who has stayed with it has felt the surge of resilience that comes from moving forward anyway. The courage born in the barn travels with people into the rest of their lives. In the rhythm of grooming, feeding, and care, people discover a sense of purpose. Horses need us in a way that is tangible and immediate. The rituals of brushing mud from a coat, filling a water bucket, or cleaning a stall give meaning to hands that may otherwise feel empty. Confidence grows here, too. There's always a moment when someone realizes they have guided a 1,000-pound animal with nothing more than breath and balance. That moment changes how they walk back into the world. Public stables are also rare spaces of belonging. Children and adults who may feel left out of step elsewhere find common ground here. Generations overlap and wisdom is passed down in gestures and stories. Laughter carries across the arena and friendships form over fence rails. And perhaps most importantly, barns preserve something more fleeting, a sense of wonder. In a world that rushes, horses slow us down. They remind us to play, to notice, and to connect with a creature who doesn't care what title we hold or what mistakes we've made. This is what is at stake when a public riding stable disappears. It's not just horse people who lose. It's every human who might have come through those gates, searching for something they could not find anywhere else. the story we've lived. 20 years ago, I hooked up the same old truck and trailer that I still use today and hauled horses to this farm. The barn roof leaked and fencing needed to be replaced. It wasn't glamorous then, and it isn't glamorous now, but it became a home for horses and for humans. Here, Max, my 30-year-old gelding who came to me at 4, still teaches children and adults how to be steady and sure. Here, people find acceptance no matter what they're facing, what they look like, or what story brought them to the gates. Here, we learn how to trust, and when trust is broken, how to trust anyway and move on. Here, we survived Hurricane Helene's destruction together. The week before, we laughed over a wedding cake that arrived bright green like a shamrock. A few days ago, a stranger pulled into the driveway and prayed over me. And that night, my mother called from the front of the house to say our farm sign had been knocked down at the road. I took it as if the land itself was saying, it's time to move forward. Bramblewood has never been about ribbons. It's always been about people and horses meeting on common ground. When the land goes, the horses go too. Every day in this country, we are losing farmland. Depending on the source, it's anywhere from 960 to 2,000 acres a day, 40 acres an hour, gone. Forests are carved into cul-de-sacs and meadows poured into parking lots. The last census of agriculture shows almost 900,000 acres lost in just 5 years. And when land goes, the horses go too. Public stables, the places where ordinary people can meet a horse without owning land or wealth, are vanishing alongside the fields they depend on. Pebble Beach Equestrian Center in California shut its gates in 2024. Colleges like Randolph and Smith have closed or downsized their equestrian programs. Even universities like UNH have paused therapeutic riding programs that serve dozens of families. These aren't isolated stories. They are symptoms of a larger disappearance, public access to horses. When barns close, it isn't just horse people who lose. It's children who found their first glimpse of confidence there. It's adults recovering from trauma who found their breath again beside a horse. It's communities who relied on open spaces as a rare sanctuary. And in South Carolina, the numbers are stark. Between 2001 and 2016, our state lost 280,000 acres of farmland. Projections show another 436,000 acres could be gone by 2040, the equivalent of losing more than 3,600 farms, nearly 6,000 agricultural jobs, and about $239 million in economic output. These aren't abstractions. Speak to most people and they can tell you a personal story about a family or farm or neighbor who is squeezed tight by progress. The legacy we stepped into. Our story doesn't begin with the 20 years that we've spent here. When we moved into this location, we moved into the legend of Foxcroft Stables. Built in the 1970s for British instructor Jennifer Jones, Foxcroft inspired an entire generation of horse people who still visit and share their memories today. Her vision of preserving green space and building public lesson programs lives on. Jennifer produced people who went on to own farms. Bramblewood has too. Honoring what came before us and the continuity that moves us forward is the bedrock of equestrian sports, from the ancient Sumerians to the modern age, because riding programs are not just about horses. They are about emotional regulation, resilience in the face of challenge, confidence and self-worth, embodiment and nervous system healing, connection beyond words, perspective and empathy, community and belonging, access to nature, intergenerational learning, meaning and purpose, pathways out of isolation, and joy and play. Every one of those threads runs through Bramblewood's story and connects us to every single riding stable still standing and operating in the world. Why crowdsourcing? I grew up in an era where patron families like the Budweisers and DuPonts kept trainers afloat. In the past, wealth underwrote equestrian access, but that world is long gone. Crowdsourcing is a new kind of patronage. It says, instead of one wealthy backer, we can build together, and instead of waiting for a benefactor, we become a community syndicate. Because the old money sponsors of riding stables never did it for a profit, horses are incredibly non-profitable. They did it for the love of the work. I've already leveraged everything I have, more than $1 million of my own resources, to make this move possible. But the gap is still wide. And if the profitable barns can't make the leap into ownership, then who can? This isn't about rescuing a struggling barn. It's about ensuring lesson barns exist at all. It's about keeping alive the rare places where horses meet ordinary people. What we're building. We're not just buying a farm. We're putting it under conservation easement so it can never be lost to development. We're creating permanence, not another stop in the lease and move carousel. And we're doing it in a way that says the horse world doesn't have to disappear into privilege. It can still belong to everyone. I think about Max and the kids that grew up here in my tenure and before. I think about the grown-ups who have discovered themselves, myself included, and about the unseen angels and friends and the storms we've weathered. They deserve for this story to continue on ground that won't vanish without a trace. The invitation. To those who've asked, why would I give? Thank you for asking. These are the questions we need to wrestle with if we want barns like mine to survive. This isn't about handouts, it's about imagination. It's about building and dreaming a new way forward when the old models no longer work. It's about standing in the widening gap and saying, we refuse to let the horse world become gated for only the very wealthy. We've proven for 20 years what's possible when humans and horses meet on common ground. Now we're asking for help to secure it for the next 20 and the next after that. If you're curious about what is happening or how you can help, or if you'd like to donate or share or just keep our story going out into the world so that we can all work together to enact some big change, then I'm going to be linking to our GoFundMe campaign in the show notes, and that's the central hub for all the information and everything that's planned each day as we go. This place has always been open to everyone, no matter what they carry. And South Carolina is 8th on American Farmland Trust's list of farms under threat, the state of the states. Every acre saved is land that will live on in the community's hands. One farm saved here means one less story of loss added to those numbers. One farm secured means one place where horses remain within reach for the rest of us. Love, Kim.